In today's lesson, students will be able to solve algebraic equations with variables on the same side of the equation. Students will be able to solve algebraic equations in fraction form. So I'm most likely going to be focusing on this topic right here, or this objective. These two you're going to do on your own first. Treat it like a do now. Just warm yourself up. Remember, draw a line through the equal sign and solve from there. I'll get you started with this one. Because the variable's on the left side, you want to get rid of the 2. In order to get rid of the 2, you subtract 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. What I do to one side, I do to the other side, and it's 10. One thing that you guys are not doing so much is you're not breaking your work down. Make sure you bring down the 5y equals 10. Yeah, listen, I get it's a pain. I get you can just do the 5 into 10 right away. Bring it down. Isolate it from the two-step equation and just look at it as a one-step equation and then solve. A lot of you are making simple mistakes, and that could be avoided by just bringing everything down. From here, the operation between the 5 and the y is multiplication. So we divide 5 to both sides, and y equals 2. So go ahead and do this one on your own, and do these two on your own. With these two, just please keep in mind that after you get rid of the 3 here, you're going to bring down the negative 7y. Same thing here. Once you get rid of that negative 9, you're going to bring down the negative 7y. So just make sure you bring things down. So solve these two. I'll check it for you. Today's lesson is really meant for this problem right here. There's two ways you can solve this. You can use the balancing method, or you can use the multiplying method. Both methods are good. I use a combination of the two. Sometimes I use one over the other. It's not like one is better than the other. So I'm going to just give you a basic example. 2y minus 3 equals 2. Right? You would draw a line through the equal sign. So in this problem, you would draw a line through the equal sign. So in my red equation, the first thing I would do is get rid of that negative 3 by adding 3. Well, it's the same thing here. Here, the letter's on the left side. So my job is to get rid of that minus 1/3. Well, how do you get rid of a minus 1/3? By adding 1/3. It's no different. Instead of just adding or subtracting integers, we're just going to be adding, subtracting fractions. So I can get rid of this now. I just want to show you how the pattern's exactly the same. Negative 1/3 plus 1/3 is gone. Some of you are writing 0. Don't write 0. It's gone. Just, less numbers the better. So, gone. But what I do to one side, I do to the other side. So I got to do 2 plus 1/3. Personally, I like it as an improper fraction. We've done this before. 2 whole plus a fraction, right? You just mush them together. The answer is really 2 1/3. But I'd rather get an improper fraction instead. So I'm going to do 2 over 1. And then from there, I'm going to get common denominators. 3 is my common denominator. So I have to multiply this by 3. I got to multiply this by 3. I got to multiply this by 1. I got to multiply this by 1. And now 2 times 3 is 6. So it'll be 6 over 3. And then this will still be 1/3. And then I add. 6 plus 1 is 7. My answer is 7 over 3. Once again, it is better to leave it as an improper fraction. Equals, and I bring this guy down. And it's 1 over 6y. This is where it gets a little funky. Now, the operation between the 1, 6 and the y. Understand, I'm not saying the operation between the 1 and the 6. I'm saying the operation between the 1, 6 and the y is multiplication. So in order to get rid of it, I have to divide by 1 over 6. I got to divide by 1 over 6. Look what I did here, though. Here I divided not top to bottom, but I divided left to right. That makes it a little bit easier. Y equals, look what happens. Think of your compact. When you're dividing fractions, remember you got to keep, change, and flip. So it becomes 7 over 3 times 6 over 1. And then you can solve this. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 6 twice. And 7 times 2 is 14. 1 times 1 is 1. So it'll be 14 over 1, which is just y equals 14. Once again, that's the balancing method. That's more like the method that you have done before anyway. It's just with fractions. Now, I'm still going to get the same answer. But here, this is a different method. I do like this method, though. It's called the multiplying method. This is where you can get rid of fractions. So the cool thing about math is what you do to one side, if you do to the other side, it stays balanced. So I know a lot of you don't like fractions, and this is kind of good news for you. If you don't like fractions, then get rid of the fractions, and you can do that. This is how. Understand what a fraction really is, right? Fraction is numbers that are on the bottom as well as numbers on top. Well, you can get rid of the numbers on the bottom. So I look at 6 and 3. And just like your compact, you want to get the LCM. So you want to get the LCM. What can go into 6 and 3 is 3. 3 goes into 6 twice. 3 goes into 3 once. And then I make the L shape. 3 times 2 times 1 is 6. My LCM is 6. Now, how did I get 3 and 6? I looked at the two bottom numbers, and this 2 here does not have a bottom number. So once again, I did 6 and 3. I got LCM of 6. Now I'm literally going to multiply everything by 6. Look, I'm multiplying the first number by 6 over 1, the second number by 6 over 1, and the third number by 6 over 1. And look what happens. When I do 6 over 1 times 1 over 6, the 6's cancel out. They're gone. And it becomes 1 times 1, which is just 1y. I just bring down the 1y. Same thing here now. The 6 cancels out with the 3. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 6 twice. And then 2, right, because that's a 2. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. I bring down the equal sign. Because this is not really a fraction, I can just do 6 instead of 6 over 1. And what is 2 times 6? 12. Now look what happens when I solve this equation. First off, notice how my equation doesn't have a fraction anymore. It disappeared. It's gone. You're allowed to do that. Literally, what you do to one side, if you do to the other side, it still remains balanced. And by doing what I just did, I got rid of the fractions. Now I can solve this like a basic two-step equation. Line through the equal sign. First thing is I get rid of that minus 2 by adding 2. 12 plus 2 is 14 equals, bring down that 1y. The operation between the 1 and the y is multiplication, so I divide. And y equals 14. Same exact answer as the previous problem. So those are two different ways to get the same answer. Whatever method works for you, works for me. So finish the rest of the packet on your own. Call me over if you have any questions.